this place because there's something special about this place, and I'll tell you from the genesis. So, in 1991, the government of India issued a commemorative stamp at 50 years of Tata Memorial Hospital. Okay? So, that's very few institutions would have a stamp. Right? So that because in 1991, that itself tells you Tata Hospital was established in 1941. So this Tata Trust, so this is in memory of Lady Meherbai Tata. So Lady Meherbai Tata had leukemia. At that time in India, there was no sort of treatment. The hospitals were not there for cancer or leukemia. They were very difficult. So on a ship, they went to New York, Memorial Sloan Kettering. She was treated there. She came back, but she died. So they thought, because they had the means, they were still very rich house, even then they were very rich. So that at least we could go there. But what happens to others who develop cancer? There was nothing. So in 1940, when it was established, before that, they did work on it. So it was very early on, where, no one else other than North America and Europe, they had, proper cancer hospitals. There was some department or somewhere they would do some radium was there, they would treatment. So that is when it was established and as a multidisciplinary hospital. It had all the wings, everything, all the. So it was the state-of-the-art hospital of 1941. And they built it in a place where this is like the medical enclave. There is Wadia Hospital, Wadia Children, Wadia Maternity. There is KEM Hospital. There is the orthopedic hospital. And then there's also an animal hospital. Okay. Hafkin, those days, Hafkin Institute was the preeminent institute. Now, Hafkin, the Hafkin, all the vaccines and all were big. So, this was the place, where everything was happening. So, that's where and this was at the periphery of the city because Dadar TT was the last place where this used to come, And there was the Parsi colony and Dadar, the Five Gardens and all that. And rest of the whole city was on the other side. Okay. So, this was the history of Tata Memorial Hospital, and it started with great fanfare. It was a new thing in Bombay, and at least now, 10 years later, uh, this new building came, what we call Indian Cancer Research Center, that was established, and it was next to Tata Hospital, this Tata Hospital, and this was under the Ministry of Health, Government of India, in 1952. As you can see the name here, Indian Cancer Research Center, ICRC, 1950. It did a lot of research and, basic research. It did basic and translational research. In 1966, they got amalgamated as one entity called Tata Memorial Center. That's when we became Tata Memorial Center. Both came together and we came under Department of Atomic Energy and as an autonomous grant in aid institution, and which is Government of India. So as a result, what happens that we have all the rules and regulations of government institutions, but a lot of it is very liberal because they are also autonomous. Okay, so and the story behind this, how it happened is that after Tata, the model of Tata is they build institution and then they give government to government. Any other institution, educational institution with House of Tata has built? Yes. Indian Institute of Science. Okay, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. So it was initially known as Tata Institute. Okay, then it was handed over. So it is still doing very well. Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. It is still Tata TIFR. Okay, still Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Okay, so there were many such places, and of course they were also very fond of culture and all. So NCPA, National Center for Performing Arts. Okay. So what was happening after we came under Ministry of Health? In those days, I don't name it. We had very good health minister. The first health minister of the country, do you know who was that? Rajkumari Amrita Kaur. So she was a visionary. She was from a royal family, okay, from Punjab. She set up AIMS and all those institutions. So Nehru had a different style of working. He would find a right person. He would say, okay, you do whatever you want to do. Okay? So he found that this lady is really into it, health. So she set up all the AIMS and all institutions. So same way, Nehru was very friendly with Homi Bhabha. Okay, there are letters archived, so he used to write him bhai, brother. For Ministry of Health, cancer hospital in 1950s, 1960s was obviously not a priority. There was polio, there was cholera, there was TB, there were malnutrition, so many things. So where would cancer come in the plan? Okay. So then they said ki this is so Bhava, and it reached to Bhava that okay, this is important. The Tata has set up this hospital, but it is not getting the due it should get because how to do it. So Bhava that time had started the Department of Atomic Energy. So it first started in his. They had their own building. They set it up there. This thing. Then the TIFR was set up. So Bhava had gone to Institute of Bangalore, but he was from Bombay. His family. He was also from a rich Parsi family. So they set up Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. So what is the connection between Department of Atomic Energy and Tata Hospital? I mean, they're completely cancer patients के लिए वो Department of Atomic Energy. Okay. So then they use that radiation. Okay. We use radiation for treatment. Those days, radiation for nuclear medicine was not developed. It is mostly for radiotherapy. Cobalt 60, cesium, and all that. And Department only would produce that. So that is how we became, and that was the best union. So as a result, we got all the freedom. Once this was established, this was the first comprehensive cancer center. So imagine those days, it was only if at all the hospital only to treat, but the Cancer Research Institute was only a research center. There were no patient research, but it was all patient-derived material or basic research. So CRI history, I will just tell you the first many institutions. There is a National Institute of NIRRH is there. Okay, National Institute of Immunohematology is there. NIRRH, NIH, and the biological division of BRC. They were all founded in CRI. Because in 1950s, some of the things like tissue culture, electron microscopy, other things, they were just didn't exist anyway. So where we are sitting in this place, on this earth, this piece of land, all this was the foundation of all these institutions. From here, someone was working there to set it up. So someone went there and established, NIRRH, NIIH, BRC ka biology division. And I should, fail if I don't tell you the one name. That was V.R. Khanolkar, Vasantrao Khanolkar. Okay. So he joined in 1941 as a professor of pathology, founding professor of pathology of Tata Hospital. And Khanolkar in 42, okay, but he had this kid of research. Okay. He could have, been anything. He could have been the top surgeon of this country. He could have been the top physician, cardiologist. He chose to become a pathologist because he wanted to understand things more deeply, not just putting a stethoscope. And those days, all the investigations very rudimentary. You're looking at an X-ray. So when he saw so many cancers, he started doing both epidemiological and other research. In 1942, there is a very famous journal of cancer known as Cancer Research. Once upon a time, its impact factor was one of the highest. Now, of course, other journals have took over. In 1942, he published two back-to-back papers. In one, he described, oral cancers, gingival buccal cancers, which and where it happens, why it happens with the habit, how people use gutka and where it happens. In the other paper, companion paper, he did experiment on mouse and showed experimental carcinogenesis. Okay. And that too, just imagine within a year of setting up a department. There were no trained technicians. Okay. 1950. So after a few years being a pathologist there, he said, no, I want my institution. So that's why in 1952, this Cancer Research Institute, and then he left his clinical practice means as a pathologist, and he completely devoted to research. And from Khanolkar, now you know why we call that building as Khanolkar Shodhika. And the other name of Khanolkar Shodhika is CRI, Cancer Research Institute. Now, other thing, because it's known as Tata Medical Center, TMC is there is in Kolkata also. That is also known as TMC. So a lot of people get confused. Tata hai, center hai, बीच में हमारा memorial है और उनका medical है. Okay. So the difference is the ethos is different. We are purely for the people. Okay. Okay. So Tata Medical Center is still run by the House of Tata of to be running. To run a hospital takes a lot of money. Whereas we get a lot of government funds. So TMC Kolkata, I mean, it's an excellent institution. They have excellent doctors, no doubt about it. But this Tata Hospital, so Tata Hospital is still, you can call it, it is still known as Tata Hospital. Tata Medical Center, Tata Memorial Center, TMC. In the medical fraternity, people know, but for the patient, it is still Tata Hospital. So, Actrek, if you, now they have changed the nameplate when you going after the Utsav Chowk, the board was written direction Tata Hospital. Still, it is written as Tata Hospital. Okay? Because for everyone, it is Tata Hospital only. So if you say, I was director actor that time, sometimes मेरे किसी में, sir, they have not written actor. I explained to them, well, for the people, it is Tata Hospital. You know? Yes. So you have to tell them. Tata Hospital. Tata. So let me just say few little how it got his name and fame. Okay. There are many names, but I'll just tell few names in that. One was Dr. Jassawala. Okay. So we have there in actor Jassawala Shodhika. Also the ward we call Jassawala Shodhika. Our ward, if you will go there, towards when you're going towards Shanti Sadan. Jassawala was also one of the directors of Tata Hospital. And he was also a Parsi. So he started something new, very thing. It was not really required. Like in those days, cytology. Okay, it was not the only pathology, it was cytology. Medical oncology did not exist, chemotherapy did not exist. So he sort of started all that, even though he was not trained. Because there was no only medical oncology, DM started much later, only 15, 20. Tata Hospital was very advanced in that much earlier. Okay. So he set up many of those things. Then we had one Ernest Borges. The name of this road was Ernest Borges. Okay. So Ernest Borges was a surgeon. Okay. He was a surgeon here. And he was, I mean, like some very genuine, he just wanted to serve. Okay. There's some doctors are like that. Their purpose of life is to serve people. And not just serve, they're excellent in it. I mean, they're top class in their job. Okay. He was top rated surgeon, the best surgeon, you could get it. And his only purpose in life was to serve people. Okay. To the expertise. And when you're working with that intention, then you develop that skill and that 20, 30 years, this hospital was mainly dominated by surgeons. Most cancers are advanced, but some of those things, and then gradually radiation oncology started. When I talk about the person there, Dr. Dinshaw, she was one of them. And then medical oncology, there's one Dr. Advani. So I'll tell you how the history, because you should know when people will talk about this. Okay? There was Dr. P.B. Desai before Dr. Dinshaw, the director. I'm just telling you of them. So CRI became Kanulkar Shodhika of Actrek, and it reached there. Now the story continues here. Okay? Jassawala, I have mentioned few things. I have mentioned about Dr. Borges. And Dr. Borges' two children. His daughter, Dr. Anita Borges. She is the preeminent pathologist of the cancer pathologist of the country. She served there for 25 years. Now she is in Center of Oncopathology, Bombay. And her son is a cardiologist, good cardiologist, Eric Borges. So this Borges. So I just happened to meet Dr. Borges, today in the oration. Okay? So this is the Borges legacy. Okay? Dr. Borges. Then at that time, I mean, I'm naming few, but there were so many doins in all fields. Whether it is thoracic, except neurosurgery, which happened much later there, because all the KM and other doins were there. All other major surgeries, they were started, refined, and brought to excellence. Then rehabilitation, then reconstructive surgery, everything that is required was started. Okay. Palliative care, this was the first hospital in the country where palliative care was started, organized as a department. There was basically, I'm from Department of Radiology, one of my colleagues, Dr. Marian Buchanan, she got interest here also, much ahead of other places. So other places started much later. So 25 years ago, Tata Hospital started palliative care unit, and now it's a full-fledged department. Okay. So patients, then radiation oncology, my boss, Dr. Dinshaw, I will talk about her later. How she started, and We're the first because Tata Hospital has come under DI because of radiation. So the country's first radon plant and the X-ray machine, linear accelerator, they all first came to Tata Hospital. So in every field we were ahead, but purpose was not. So that's why, when I see in some institution, the culture, if you got something, use it for own research or this is mine. Tata Hospital, that culture did never exist. Sometimes, people come from outside when they bring their own culture, but the main Tata Hospital original culture is whatever is there for everyone. Basically, it is for patients. Okay? So that is our ethos when I've said the ethos, and everyone works. So over a period of years, patients come, they see there's so much of cures, but they figure it out. Every doctor, not just doctor, every person here is working for us. And there is no other motive other than working for us, other than trying to us. So through word of mouth, okay, not through Tata will never advertise anywhere. Okay, no politicians took us, and said everywhere Tata Hospital is. We never on the newspaper. Abhi aane lage hain wo sab, okay? But through word of mouth. If you go to Bombay, there is a hospital there near Dadar where they do very good treatment, whether you're rich or poor, everyone is treated alike. Okay? So that is how we got the name and the fame. And then it moved ahead with times yellow. In this building, if you see the old building, the like a ship, you are seeing. Are you seeing the cursor? Yes. Okay, 1941. Where you are sitting here, this cursor, this is the Homi Bhabha block. Okay, Homi Bhabha block. This was in 2009. This is the annex building. Okay, you see the bridge. When you go from here, there's a road here. This is a bridge. This is the aerial view from that side. This bridge is go from main building to the annex building. Annex building came up in 1978. So in annex building, they also started RMC, Radiation Medicine Center, RMC. So that comes directly under BRC, Bhabha Atomic Research Center. So the history of RMC is right now nuclear medicine has become very fashionable because of PET scan and all those things. Previously, there was only radioiodine treatment used to do and many other things. They used to do some isotopes. So Department of Atomic Energy, BRC, that India's Dhruv reactor was very old, the reactor. They started producing these radioisotopes. So RMC was one of the leading institute in nuclear medicine in Asia, not just in India. Okay? And the experts. Sister, अभी थोड़ा देर क्लास चल रहा है. अभी आधा घंटा लगेगा. Okay. So sisters are here as usual. They do their job. But I should say, since a sister nurse has come, our nurses are wonderful. I have learned so much. Okay. All nurses are good. Tata Hospital nurses are special. Okay. They have seen so much, they have grown up. So our nurses are very good. They keep the patient minding. When I say doctor, not just a doctor, I'm glad a nurse sort of came in. The patient experience, and that I experienced when I was a patient's relative. My own father was treated in Tata Hospital in 1991. 1990, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. He was admitted in the ward for months together and so many times. Ultimately he lost the battle. So whenever he would be admitted for 1 month, 2 months, all that, he had spine tumor and all that. How the nurses used to care after patients. So that I saw that when I was a resident, you go there on ground quickly, you tell them you do the right order. So when I was staying in the hostel, this building was being built, and next to that was a St. Xavier's football ground. So we used to watch the matches from there in trains, the ball used to just or not. Okay, then this building came in 1992, 91, 92, it was inaugurated. Okay, and there's a service block behind there where there's a cafeteria and all. So this is Tata Hospital. So as the demand, and we have a small land block, all those things, just this is 4.5 acres only, less than 4.5 acres. That is what. And then of course now a Hafkin building. I'm also talking about future when I'm talking of the Hafkin building is coming. There's a hostel there where Soumya and Vishala they are currently staying. Okay, and there's a new that is coming. Now CRI moved to Actrec. Building on the left is the Cancer Research Institute, which we call Khanolkar Shodhika. And CRC, Cancer Research Center on the right is 2005, which is known as Paymaster Shodhika. You know what is paymaster? The Parsis, their names used to be like on their profession, something like engineer, screw wala, banduk wala, daru wala, paymaster. Okay, so paymaster must be someone in his ancestors must be something. So some patient asked कि वहाँ पे accounts department है क्या? Paymaster means the accounts department is there, but his name was paymaster. Okay, and just last year we inaugurated the Proton Center, which is called the Dinshaw Shotika. No, that is just because in memory of this. So, and 2009 the Homi Baba block. Okay, that is how all this building. So this is how the functional and spatial this thing. So this was I was telling you the lady. So today was the oration, Ketayu Dinshaw oration. So she spent. Madam would always put a big bindi, always be a sorry, crisp sorry, okay, and always be prim and proper. Absolutely, no one would have ever. So she was a special lady, and she was awarded the Padam Shri for whatever she did, and she actually built many of the institutions. So Homi Baba block, it did not get finished by the time she retired in 2007. Tata Medical Center, all the entire planning and execution, but by the time it was inaugurated, she was terminally ill. She died of cancer, unfortunately.
So the Afghan Institute was a part of Tata?
No, it was always separate. Afghan was never part of it. So I'll just quickly tell you about the organizational structure also a little bit. So we, as I said, we are autonomous grant in state institution under Department of Atomic Energy. Now Tata Memorial Center has total 11 institutions. So Tata Hospital in Mumbai, ACTREC in Mumbai. Then in Varanasi we have two centers, Mahamna Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, MP, MMC, which is there, which caters to most. Then there's another center known as Homi Baba, where mainly pediatric and leukemias are there. Then in Punjab, we have two centers. One is in Sangrur, other is in New Chandigarh. We have in Assam, B. Barua Cancer Institute in Guwahati. So it was already existing. We have taken over. Then we have in Vizag, Homi Baba Cancer Center. In Muzaffarpur, Bihar, we have started. And there are one or two other centers which are in the process of being planned. Have I missed anything? Vizag, I said. No, Jamshedpur is not. So that is that is not under Tata Memorial Center. Okay. That is still run by the Tata Steel. Okay. LT. Mullanpur and Mullanpur is also called New Chandigarh. So this is because we are expanding. Okay. So the structure is that one director of Tata Memorial Center, which now is Dr. Dinshaw was there, now Sudhir Gupta is there. And then under director of each institution, and then further that we have director academics. Director academics is Dr. Banavli. Okay. So look after all the academics. And the main motto of Tata Hospital is now it has been defined about 30 years ago: service, education, and research. First is service. You have to serve the people. And while doing that, you also educate and train people and also do research, service, education, and research. So in terms of service, taking into account the people who of the country, their means, we have mandate that private patients for any service cannot be more than 40% of the cases. Okay. So our registration, anyone who comes, they can decide whether they want to make a private file or general file. So a general file, the costs are all very subsidized. Okay, whether inpatient, outpatient, you all know that the genetic testing also costs are subsidized. And if they have a general file, then to make a no charge file, NC category, then the social worker has to see it is based on the means. If they really are very poor, that there are different criteria to judge your ration card, source of earning, etc. So anyone patient can decide whether I want to be general or private. And in general, if they want to be NC where the charges are much less, then it would be social worker would decide. Plus, a lot of NGOs and trusts work with us. We have a lot of this thing for giving funds to patients who can't deserve. Children, there's an Impact Foundation for the last 10, 15 years. no child goes without any full treatment or investigation. It is just taken care of. There are St. Jude's Child Care Centers. So they have now 8 or 9 centers. So any patient, because they found that a lot of children never used to complete the treatment. Where will they stay? Where will they, get money for them? So the entire treatment, their stay is completely free. Stay and food. Okay. So a lot of people work with us. So the governing body, I was starting. Governing body, the chairman of Department of Atomic Energy. Department of Atomic Energy is all these institutions. Okay, Tata Memorial Center is one institution. Within Tata Memorial Center, there are many institutions. So the chairman of DAE is the chairperson of governing body of Tata Memorial Center. Then director TMC and directors of these institutions, TMH, ACTREC, and our Electric Center. Then the bureaucrats from Department of Atomic Energy. So there is joint secretary level. So the joint secretary R&D, joint secretary finance, and 1 or 2 representatives from the House of Tatas. Okay, they are there. And 1 or 2 representatives from the state government. So when they became Tata Memorial Center became, so that was a condition how it will be done. So it functions quite well. Okay. So overall, we are controlled by that. So general government interference, Ministry of Health is nil, but that is. So now coming to, eh? I've seen him. I've not sort of shaken hands with him. Okay. I've met APJ Abdul Kalam 2-3 times. I've shaken hands with him. He had come for inauguration of this HBB. Okay. One thing I did not mention about Tata Hospital, I think it just figured out if your intentions are right, it would give you all the liberty. Okay, there was no micromanagement. No, I mean some bosses are very bossy and they irritate you. Oh, that you can't help it. That they're equally distributed everywhere. But there was no systematic, suppression of people. That kind of hierarchy. Okay, and I'll tell you why it was important. So initially, the surgeons were predominant. They lorded over everyone. Okay, they will decide. They will come and tell, give this patient chemotherapy this much, give this patient radiation this much. But in those days, because they had slots, they established. Others don't. So those who were not there used to feel that. But over a period of time, this is the only place which is most democratic. We have multidisciplinary teams. It doesn't matter whether you are a surgeon, whether you are a medical oncologist, radiation oncologist, whatever. Most of the units, there is at least that interdisciplinary competition or superiority, inferiority doesn't exist. Okay. So that allowed us to form disease management groups. So there are departments also, and there are disease management groups. Okay. So that is because this is the only place where we all of us specialized in just 1 or 2. I mean, I may have know everything, but we decided to treat only 1 or 2 conditions so that we can go into depth. Okay. So that is so we have a breast cancer disease management group, gynecological cancer disease management group, everything. So the surgeon may have done MCH in surgical oncology. He or she may be able to operate everything from head to toe, but they have decided that I will do only bone and soft or only gynecological cancer, only so that same way radiation oncology has been trained to treat everything, but we have decided to so that patient is benefited, and you can go into that. Okay, so it is organized like there are departments also because from some resources will be in the department, like a machine or operation theater or the ward will be for the department, but the users would also the experts faculty would also belong to a disease management. So we have disease management group. One is pediatric. In pediatric, there are 2 disease management group. One is hematolymphoid, other is all solid tumor. And in the adults, there is one hematolymphoid. And then for each of the, from neuro, head and neck, you can come from top to bottom. Neuro, head and neck, then thoracic, then breast, then GI. GI mein there are 2. One is GI mein one is hepatobiliary, other is colorectal. And okay, then you have genitourinary, then you have gynec, then bone soft tissue, like this. It is divided. So that is how we function. Then we were the first hospital to do the bone marrow transplant, 1987 or sometime. We were the first one to do bone marrow transplant. And the bone marrow transplant unit shifted to Actwell. Now it is entirely done. So, what I was telling you, this hospital gave you the liberty. Once they figured out that you are not a nuisance maker, you are matched with the ethos of this place. So I was one of the beneficiaries of that. Okay. And my boss, what I showed Dr. Dinsha, she was very strict, khatarnak. Okay. No one could ever take her for granted for anything. You are going, madam has called you, or you have to go and meet madam. You have to think what the purpose of your meeting is, what is required, what she may ask you. And when you are talking to her, she had used to write green. She will just make notes. And next time when you go, I know you'll always go and meet her with an appointment. You will always get appointment same day and next day. She will have a system of putting it out what she discussed with you. You would think, what would madam remember? 60-year-old lady, what we discussed 3 months ago. But she'll ask you, okay, so last time you were going to look at it, have you found out what happened? You will get taken aback. She's a very systematic lady. Okay? So, uh, so despite all that strictness, she allowed me to dabble to something about which I knew nothing. She obviously knew nothing. Okay, how I just because out of curiosity. Okay, I've told this story to many people. I'll just narrate once more. Okay, how it started. I came back from England after spending 4.5 years with my FRC. While I reverted, before I could revert back to my Desi style of taking history, suddenly I started picking up many families with significant family history of cancer. Prior to that, it will be one odd family in 2 months, 2 months, or 3 months. Now, every week I was finding a family with a significant family. Okay? So, and that was a little odd, and I realized it is the way I was taking this because most of us trained in government hospital, very busy. But 50 patients quickly just ask few leading questions before they can think next. You move to the next question. And as all new consultants, okay, or new assistant professors, like these two are in that mode, you want to make your mark. Okay, and how would you make your mark? By doing service, it is unfortunately, it is so difficult to make your mark by just being a very good doctor. Okay? I mean, people say, so what? By virtue of being a very good doctor, you can't make a mark. And that's a fallacy of the system. People don't recognize that. Okay. So you have to do some research, some fancy thing you talk about, you publish something, then very good, very clever. Okay. So I was in that mode. I wanted to impress others. Of course, now I don't care to impress others. I was in that mode. I thought no one else knows, my colleagues don't know that hereditary cancer is common in India also. Okay. Initially, it's India also, I will do my this thing. So I started a registry, cancer genetics registry. Those was that time there was no IC, IRB. Just I took a register. I started. So this used to be my lunchtime registry. Okay. In the busy OPD, any patient who would be there, who is there, and I will just tell them you come in lunchtime, 1 o'clock, because 1 to 2 no बंद कर दे ज़्यादा भाई थोड़ा सा खाना भी खाना तब तक बाकी paper work used to finish on writing in the file and all that. We used to barely, continuously from 8:30 till 7:30, we were continuously seeing patient. I was a completely patient-centric doctor, nothing else. I had, just come, see patient, be with the patient, and go home, do your slog, and then dead tired, you sleep. So lunchtime, and then after a year or two, then my colleagues used to ask me, "Sorry, why you do this?" I mean, it was odd. BRCA1 had just been found, but none of the doctors in Tata would have heard of BRCA1 that time. I had just known because I'd come back from England. So there was no internet and all. Internet was very rudimentary. I said, I like it. And then there was no lab. There was only Myriad Genetics. They used to charge $3,000. I wouldn't have the guts to tell someone to spend three, they'll have to sell their house to this thing. I wouldn't have the guts. I myself was, and so, but I used to take history. I've shown some of those pedigrees, detailed history, all that, this thing. So Then I realized I can't really help them. I try to get out of it. Okay, I try to get out of it because I really couldn't have helped them. Then these people, unfortunately or fortunately, had never met a doctor who was at least listening to them. Okay? And we doctors, Indian doctors, I would say, not all doctors, Indian doctors, we are very patronizing. We decide like we act God. No, no, don't worry. Okay? So, बोला, sir, बेटी का क्या है? Don't worry. Just because you said don't worry, how can she stop worrying? She's known what happened to her mother, to her sister. You all see in the genetics thing. Okay. Okay. And we also are not very, very bad in saying I don't know. This is a routine. This is actually an Indian culture. Very bad. At least North India. I don't know in South India it is there or not. People, if they don't know, are they able to say I don't know? No. So it is pan-Indian culture. We don't want to show anyone that even if you ask where is this place, even that like, you have to judge ki how confidently this person is telling. Isn't it? No, no, that is very nice. At least they tell go and ask.
Most times it is not.
So, obviously, so it is very cultural. We don't say, and Indian doctors, doctor, okay, so I don't know. I mean, what do you mean? So no one will tell them, I don't know. They will say, don't worry. Okay, then someone is asking, hereditary cancer always exists. You don't only know that because you have a genetic trait. Now you see them. Okay? So these patients, they knew that then I started because there was no lab. I was not trained into genetic counseling. I sprayed it basically for very selfish motives for my, which I see my colleagues, I understand them, where they're coming from. Because once upon a time, I was like that only. So I tried to get out of it. I could not get out of it. These families, 100 families, they taught me. So if at all you are having this course, is the first 100 families. वो लोग आके बैठे रहते थे मेरा उधर ऑफिस था I actually actively tried to evade them. I will not do. What will I tell you? Every time telling ki, I'll tell next time. I'll tell next time. What will I tell you? There's no lab without genetic. I don't know about genetic counseling. I don't know no lab. And I said, I will not do, stop it. My friends were right. I should not have gone into it. I have bitten more than I can chew. But these families, they will hunt me down anywhere. Some of them would wait. So one day, I started thinking like a simple doctor. Okay? From an assistant professor, lecturer who's trying to make his mark or, show that how good you are. I just started thinking like a doctor. Okay? And I knew very little, but whatever little I knew was 100 times more than what my colleagues knew. So then I said, no. Once you get into that mode of, okay, we have to do something. Okay. So that's my boss used to say, Raju, do something. Okay. If you do something, then obviously then you have brains. God has given us all brains. Okay. You have 24 hours in a day. Studied. So it was like I'm self-studied cancer genetics, self-studied genetic counselor. And that is how it started. So by 2003, but again, patients would come. So I found one lady was there, Neena Bhatnagar. She had done MA, MSc in mathematics. I taught her how to draw a pedigree. So once a week, she used to come and do that. And 2000, no, before that only, in 2003, 4, Dr. Shyam Agarwal, she would have heard her name. He was director of SGPGI. And when CRI moved to ACTREC, he was the first director, but he did not do that when the full building, the CRC also moved. So I was the founding director of the full ACTREC, the first director when CRI and CRC both together came. I set up all those places. I'm not talking about that. Okay. So he used to come once a week also. Okay. Then by the time we had a registry, we had 2, 3 people. In 2007, we set up a lab. I got a ICMR grant, which I had applied in 2003. Finally, the money came in 2007. So then the Serene lab was established that time in 2007. And then that year we hired first. So Neena Bhatnagar, whom I trained, was my volunteer. Actually, then I trained her more. So we appointed her as a scientific officer, as a cancer genetics clinic, and 2 genetic counselors. Okay. So Gauri and Ravi. Then Gauri left. उसके बाद में वंदना ने join किया. फिर ऐसे ऐसे करके there. No, Payal was my first genetic counselor. Payal Manek. Now she's an entrepreneur. Okay. So Payal was. They were all trained. Payal Manek. She was trained. She had come from Australia and all that. And our lab used to do basically Sanger and MLPA, and we done around few hundred NGS, but under research. I had many PhD students. I used to make them all do wet lab, everything, including making library. And then we moved 2021. We said, okay, let's do in-house now. And then, rest is history. You know how patients come, how they are benefiting. And one of the reason why I have this course and you all are here is because we started doing testing full force. Okay. And I realized that if every hospital has full genetic testing, which I think every hospital should have, I go and tell every hospital. So, why I explained to you the structure and functioning of this, that the way DMG is organized. So, some things are outside DMG. Okay. So, cancer genetics unit is not in DMG. Okay, because we cater to everyone, like Department of Pathology. So pathologists are in different. So there's one Department of Pathology. There are 3 pathologists who are in gynae DMG, 3 in breast DMG. Okay, and each pathologist may have 2, 3 DMGs. So in cancer, I'm the single person, so I can't be in all the. So I'm in all the DMGs. But in future, when we have maybe 4 or 5, consultants in the department, then maybe we could divide. Okay, like Soumya could be taking 2 or 3 DMGs. I may be taking 2 or 3 DMGs. Whoever becomes the consultant, so that we can focus more, in depth. But as of now, we cater to all the disease management groups that is there. We are fortunate to have our own lab, and our lab, all of you have visited the lab and you know the lab. It's a very unique kind of lab. Okay, that's how this thing is there, but it did not happen in a day. We set up the lab, and I am not a lab person. I have no PhD. Okay, I have no MSc. I am simple plain doctor. Okay, so in when I realized there was I told you the CRI building was there, so I was already doing. I had started my registry in 1996. There are many scientists. Many of them were my friend also. So if you see my old, I have written consent taken, sample collected for biobanking. I used to hope that they will do some. The BRCA one was new, red, all this they will do. Scientists, I used to think that time that they're very mean. It's not that they're mean. They have to see because they will get the salary they get, but other the lab will run only if they get grants. And to get grants, they have to have publication. So they are completely publication oriented. Okay. So they will say whether how many samples you have, what is novelty, they will do that. So they were not all interested. So then I got so disheartened. Now I've been thinking that we will do genetic testing, and there were no labs. After Myriad was $3,000 in around 2000. This Reliance Hospital started, Reliance Center, they started their genetics lab. Dr. Dhanu Sarnath, who was senior scientist at CRI, she retired. They were charging for BRCA1-2 Sanger sequencing and MLPA those days 54,000. Really good. Again, 54,000 was too much. And I realized, I'm gone. And by that time, I was completely into genetics. Okay, there was no way I could have left genetics and leave my family. By that time, there were almost 1,000 families. There was no way I could have abandoned them. And there's no lab. The lab is there, can't afford. So मैंने कहा कि do something. मतलब मेरे को कुछ करना पड़ेगा. I never thought I will get into the laboratory genetics. Then I went for 1 or 2 places for training, short training, and again reading. Okay, if you have read, you have understood a concept. Even if you there for a few weeks, you can pick it up fast. Okay, so then I set up, and then that I wrote that ICMR grant. It got finally funded in 2007. Then we set up a lab. Then I had my PhD. So there was one Dr. Pradnya Kaur. She really helped me set up the lab and train people. And then we started doing Sanger, and Naresh and Sharda, they were already there as scientific assistant. They were there. And then we started doing, then 2000, I had a big project called International Cancer Genome Consortium. And Poonam was a research fellow in that project, okay, with me in the research fellow. And later on, I found her good, and then I said, okay, she's a pathologist, and then she became part of it, and then molecular pathology and genetic testing. And now I have all of you. Okay? So that whatever we've learned for Okay, all the founder mutation that we know now, EA mutation, no mutation that we have learned in that period when we had the research lab. Okay, through that to research. And now we got another ICMR. Okay, कौन है उधर देख